We say a Republican Party, they don't like black people. This is a perfect example of that. This Tarrant County District Attorney's Office, they have announced that they're going to be appealing last month's ruling by the Texas Appeals Court that overturned the Crystal Mason's 2018 conviction for illegal voting. Now, Crystal Mason was on federal probation for felony conviction in 2016 when she voted in an election with a provisional ballot. Now, she says she didn't know she could not vote. This actually went to court. The folks with the probation folks said in testimony that she didn't know. She was not told. She was convicted anyway. 2 years later of voter fraud and sentenced to 5 years behind bars because state law only allows felons to vote if they have fully finished their sentence, including any parole or supervision requirements. Now, keep in mind, she had to go back to federal prison for violating the terms of her probation, and then they tacked on 2 more years of supervised release. So although she has not gone to state prison, she didn't have to go back to federal prison because she was indicted. On March 28th, the Texas Second Court of Appeals overturned Mason's conviction because she didn't have, quote, actual knowledge, unquote, that she couldn't vote while on federal supervised release in a tax fraud case. Now, I want to read for you the statement because this is important before I go to her attorney. And it shows you how sadistic and shameful these folks are in Tarrant County, Texas. This is the statement that they released. And when I read this for you, you're probably going to say, you got to be kidding me. This is a quote from this statement. The trial court's guilty verdict should be affirmed. Voting is a cornerstone of our democracy. This office will protect the ballot box from fraudsters who think our laws don't apply to them. Crystal Mason, a 4-time felon, was convicted of illegal voting on March 28, 2018 in a bench trial in the 432nd Judicial District Court. She was convicted based on testimony from the election judge and poll clerk that she read the provisional voter affidavit, affirmed that she provided accurate information, signed the affidavit, and testified that the affidavit language was clearly understandable to mean that a convicted felon such as herself was ineligible to vote. On March 28, 2024, the Second Court of Appeals reversed her conviction and published an opinion stating that there was evidence showing Mason may not have known she was ineligible to vote on the day she voted. The Second Court of Appeals failed to give proper deference to the trial court's guilty verdict and reweighted the evidence in favor of Mason. The Second Court of Appeals misapplied the sufficiency standard of review by not viewing the evidence in the light, y'all gonna love this here, by not viewing the evidence in the light most favorable to the trial court's verdict in contravention to binding precedent for the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. The Second Court of Appeals publication of its opinion creates the very real risk that future sufficiency cases will likewise be wrongly analyzed and decided. This office requests that the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals grant review in this case, reverse the Second Court of Appeals decision, and affirm the trial court's guilty verdict. That's from the Tarrant County DA's office. Kim Cole, Crystal Mason's attorney, joins us right now. Kim, hate to have the fact that we're talking to you again about this case. This has been going on for 8 years. And for people who don't understand, she filed a provisional ballot. The ballot was not even counted. So it wasn't like it actually was included. That's one. They also lie in this statement, Kim, by saying that, oh, she knew this, she knew that. And then they also lie by saying that once there was evidence showing Mason may not have known she was ineligible. This is according to the court. So they're trying to say that they're wrong. There was testimony. Wasn't there actual testimony by a probation officer who said no one told her she couldn't vote? Correct?
That is absolutely correct, Roland. And it wasn't just a probation officer. He was a supervisory probation officer. He was over all the probation officers. And he testified on the stand. And this was their witness. This was not Crystal's witness. This was their witness that they called to the stand. And they asked him point blank, didn't you tell her that she was not eligible to vote? And he said, no, I did not. They conveniently leave out the fact that, they point out that she filled out a provisional ballot, filled out her, correct information. Yes, she did. Filling out a provisional ballot is not illegal. And then they go on, if she didn't think she was eligible to vote, or she knew she wasn't eligible to vote, who would put their right name on there, the accurate information? Who would sign the ballot if they knew they weren't eligible? She didn't know. And
yeah. And what bothers me here, again, I love this line here, that they misapplied the standard because they should have only reviewed evidence in light most favorable to the trial court's verdict. That's not their job. Their job is to look at the verdict, the prosecution, and the defense, weigh the evidence. So basically, the Tarrant County DA is saying, oh, y'all should overlook anything that doesn't make us look good.
And that's essentially what they're saying. Unfortunately, the hypocrisy is real, because we've seen time and time again that they have absolutely ignored precedent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are right now with the Roe v. Wade situation, with affirmative action, and numerous other precedent that has provided and expanded rights for minorities. So the hypocrisy is real, right? But that is, unfortunately, the standard, that anytime there is an appeal, they are to view the evidence in the light most favorable to the upholding the verdict. However, that doesn't mean be ignorant. and they did not prove their case. Their witnesses contradicted each other. And what they also failed to include was that the Second Court of Appeals said that even if she had read the affidavit, there is absolutely no language whatsoever in that affidavit, because Crystal testified that she didn't read it. They're going on her two neighbors' testimony that was inconclusive that she read it. They're like, well, I think she read it. She was moving her finger. Anyway, Crystal did not actually read the affidavit. She was filling out her information, because on one side is the attestation, the other side is where she fills out her information. And she was putting her information on there because they did admonish her that she had to provide accurate information. And she made sure everything matched up with her driver's license. And so, that being said, even if she read it, there's nothing in the provisional ballot affidavit that says that if you are A, B, C, and XYZ, you are not eligible to vote. Nothing in there. So how would she have known?
Here's what's also interesting. I mean, here's the deal. So she was convicted of tax fraud. She was inflating returns for her clients in terms of preparing their taxes. Okay, That's why she went. But when we read their press release, Crystal Mason, a 4-time felon. Wasn't that tied to the same case? And so they're trying to give the impression that, this is a repeat offender. This woman is a menace to society.
Yes, that is absolutely. They have continued to persecute and disparage her. Here, what they failed to. Crystal isn't a saint, Roland. I mean, she isn't. Every saint got a past, and every sinner got a future. Okay, so she does have a prior criminal history. Otherwise, she wouldn't even be in this situation to ascertain whether or not she was eligible to vote. Okay, so that's how we landed here. Yes, she is a felon. However, what they failed to acknowledge in stating that she's a 4-time felon which they also included the one where she was acquitted, this particular case, but we can look past that, right? Yeah. Anyway, in all of her other cases, Crystal pled guilty. She admitted her wrongs, even to the case that got her sent to federal prison. She has no problem holding herself accountable for the things that she's done wrong. Why on earth would she fight for 7 years to prove her innocence when in all of these other cases, she admitted her guilt because she did something wrong? She was like, I did it. I mean, I'm going to take accountability for my actions. Here, she didn't know she was not eligible. So she refuses to accept responsibility. Right.
I mean, the thing that jumps out to me is, before I go to Matt and Michael with their questions. Okay. Has she gone to state prison? No. But she actually, because of this, she returned to federal prison for 2 years. You would think a common sense DA would say, okay, we've been dealing with this one case for 8 years. They literally are spending more time on this case than they have on heinous crimes that have been committed. So the waste of resources to me is unbelievable. This is, no, we're going to make an example out of this black woman. And this is about creating a chilling effect about anybody else who's formerly incarcerated in voting. The same thing they did when they attacked a black man in Houston who stood in line for 6 hours. And guess what? He was later found that he could vote. And he now says, hey, I'm not going to vote again because of what I went through. That's what this is all about.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I've said over and over again, in their summation in Crystal's original trial, they said they wanted to send a message to voters, much like their ridiculous, disparaging, inaccurate statement that they released yesterday. They are trying to send a message. They are trying to, quote unquote, protect the ballot box, as if, of course, Roland, you know where that comes from, as if folk like us shouldn't be there. And so they are absolutely still trying to send the same message. 7 years later, 8 years later, we're coming up on another election. 8 years later, they're still trying to send the same message. They don't want folks who look like Crystal at the ballot box. They are trying to protect the ballot box, not from fraudsters, because let's be honest, we've seen the documentation of who was committing all the voter fraud in the past few elections. They don't look like Crystal. So they're not trying to protect the ballot box from from fraudsters. They're trying to protect the ballot box from those who have been typically disenfranchised by this system. And that is the whole point of them continuing to beat this dead horse.
And correct me if I'm wrong. There was a Texas Justice of the Peace, Russ Casey, who admitted to forging signatures to get on the primary ballot. And he pled guilty to records tampering. He resigned. That happened in 2018. These folks are spending more time, and he was an elected official. They're spending more time going after her than they did going after somebody like him.
Yes.
And in fact, before that, and he was sentenced to 2 years in jail, but it was probated over 5 years. But they want to send her to prison.
They absolutely want to send her to prison because they want people who look like her. They want to protect the ballot box from folks who look like her and you and me, and want to send, and Mr. Rogers down there in Houston. They want people that look like us to fear that they may suffer the same fate. Look at what all they're doing. Look at all of the taxpayer money they're spending to put an innocent woman in prison. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Matt Manning, your question.
So, Kim, thank you first for your advocacy. You're doing stellar work. And ironically, I'm writing a PDR to the Court of Criminal Appeals as we speak. This is really kind of appreciate. But my question to you is this. First, have you ever seen an appeal like this? Because my understanding is the Court of Criminal Appeals sent it down saying y'all used the wrong construction of the statute. And the opinion that came out of the Second Court of Appeals was determining the sufficiency of the evidence. So as far as I see this, this is purely political. And to that end, is there any mechanism that y'all have to dismiss a frivolous appeal like you would like a Rule 91A dismissal on the civil side or any dismissal like that? Because I think it's frankly unethical to appeal it following the Court of Criminal Appeals opinion in this case, but I haven't seen the mechanism whereby you could get it thrown out, just on its face, because I don't know how they get there at all.
From my understanding, there isn't one. We will have an opportunity to file a response to their request for discretionary review. So we're still, obviously, I'm not her only attorney, and we're still evaluating whether or not we will respond, because to be quite honest, it's trash. I don't know if you read it. It's trash. And, we're debating whether or not we actually even, want to even give it the credence to draft a response. But I believe ultimately we will, because we should say something, because this does not deserve the court's review. And hopefully the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals will not take it up. But no, I don't believe there's any mechanism like on the civil side where we can just get this out of here, please. This doesn't even require one moment of your time.
I mean, I think this is sanctionable, arguably sanctionable conduct, because it's so rare that you have the top court, and Roland, for all the viewers, the Court of Criminal Appeals in Texas is like our criminal Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. So this is basically the criminal Supreme Court saying, y'all got it wrong below, look at it again, them acquitting following that instruction, and then this Tarrant County DA still trying to press the issue because he doesn't want to lose in the court of public opinion. But the court has already said what it is. So, I mean, to me, it's sanctionable because I don't think there's an ethical basis on which to advance this appeal. Anyway, my thoughts.
Well, I certainly hope the court actually does smack them down because this continuation of this case, it's 8 years. She voted in 2016. I'm sorry, you don't spend 8 years on a case like this. Michael?
All right, Attorney Cole, thanks for coming back on, giving us an update. First and foremost, how is Crystal doing with this new news? Number one. Number two, is there anything possibly the Department of Justice can do, the Civil Rights Division, anything like that in regards to suing Texas, what have you?
So first of all, Crystal is understandably distraught. She thought finally that this nightmare was over because it is clear that she has been targeted. They haven't put this. I always talk about the affluenza team, the case that made national attention. This young man committed several crimes, stole a vehicle, stole alcohol, killed 4 people. And they did not advocate him going to prison. Crystal filled out a form. That's it. She filled out a form with accurate information. She didn't lie on the form. And they want to send her to prison. This is absolutely ridiculous. I would agree that the continued prosecution should be sanctionable because there is no basis for it. Absolutely no basis for it. So Crystal is not well. She's very upset. She really took particular issue with the DA's attempt to disparage her in their last statement. Their language was vile and very unprofessional. So she really took issue with that. To, paint her as a 4-time felon. No, this conviction was thrown out. So
Right.
you can say, so she isn't a 4-time felon, but they just really took, called her fraudster. They really took some low blows, and so she's not happy, and she was looking forward to moving forward with her future without this hanging over her head. She has had to worry for the last 7 years. At any moment, this case could have turned the opposite direction, and she would have been looking at 5 years in jail and prison. And so she finally thought that was over. Your second question, and I apologize, I forgot what your second
Department of
point was.
Justice, Civil Rights Division.
Yeah.
The role that they can play in this.
I think there's a role that they should play. There are some issues going on in Tarrant County that definitely would. In fact, there's some other issues going on in Tarrant County, may not be known to you, but those of us locally know. I actually am drafting a DOJ complaint, not in regards to Crystal's case, but in some other infringements of rights there in Tarrant County. So the DOJ should definitely step in and actually make a move in Crystal's case too. Typically they don't get involved in pending cases, but they definitely should look at Tarrant County's prosecution, period. Not just in Crystal's case, but in their criminal prosecution, period. Because I guarantee you, Crystal's case is the tip of the iceberg as far as this malicious prosecution goes.
Wow. All right. Thank you.
It is just, again, it is shameful to me. It is utterly ridiculous. And again, they are terrorizing this woman. That's what they're doing. Their behavior is an abomination. And I really believe that civil rights groups and others should be showing up at the Tarrant County Commissioners meeting, condemning the DA, demanding the commissioners do an audit of their department, to waste resources, to waste taxpayer resources going after this one woman for 8 years is nuts. And I really do hope that folks in Tarrant County and Fort Worth are loudly protesting this district attorney, calling him out and demanding he answer to this, because this just makes no sense whatsoever.
I agree, Roland. I agree. And we have been, so many organizations and individuals have reached out in support of Crystal, and we are planning, they are planning some type of actual action and protest of them continuing to pursue Crystal, not just in the interest of justice, but also in the interest of fiscal responsibility. They're spending taxpayer dollars on a political narrative. And that's not how the taxpayers want their dollars spent. I would think if there are funds allocated toward fighting crime, they would really prefer that they pursue people who have actually committed crimes.
Be sure to follow us here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Follow us on our social media platforms as well, on Twitter and Instagram. We have the information here on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can also register for the 10-week online history course that I teach, where we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. This is a class that I created the curriculum. I've been teaching it since 2017, on and off. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So the class is discounted to $60. We're going to do about 12 class sessions, including the first session, which was the overview. We have the class lesson plan here for all 10 or 11 class sessions as well. So you can see the type of content that we cover. You can download the class lesson plans here as well. So we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We look at some ancient African civilizations, not just ancient Kemet, but also Kush, Ethiopia, We look at Great Zimbabwe. We look at Hannibal Barca and Carthage. We talk about the African Moors as well. We have a preview of the class here also. So you can register for it. Click right here to register for the class. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded, so you can go back and watch it anytime. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you have full access. You can go back and watch the entire course, okay? Our next classes are Saturday, April 6th, Saturday, April 13th, April 20th, April 27th, 2024. And we do the classes usually 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We may have one last class session after April 27th. We have to see how much we can cover, okay? But as soon as you register, you can start watching the content. And we're going to post the link right here, so you can start watching it right now as soon as you register for the class. The content is PG-13, so you can use this with your children. There are 80 to 100 articles that we reference in the class. There's like 15 books. You don't have to buy any books to follow along in class. And we talk about this here in the lesson plan. Okay, we can't start studying our history in slavery. Even when we study the transatlantic slave trade, which is important, we can't start in 1619 or the 1440s. When the Portuguese get involved, we have to deal with hundreds of years, deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, also deal with some of the history of the Khoisan, who go all around the world. There are 200 slides, over 200 slides that I put together in our PowerPoint presentation that we'll look at. There are 80 to 100 articles that we'll reference. So I picked out the articles. There are 15 books that we reference. So we show you excerpts of the book on the screen. You don't have to buy any of the books if you don't want to. They're good for your library if you want to. Also, we'll look at excerpts of interviews that I've done with some of our scholars, like Professor James Small, Professor Kabahai Kamene, Anthony Browder, Tony Browder, who wrote Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization and Egypt on the Potomac. We use those two books. Those are two of the books we use in the class. Also, we'll look at excerpts of interviews that I've done with Renoka Rashidi and some other scholars also. Okay, so we do the sessions live. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. All right. That's Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Be sure to follow us here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. Follow us on our social media platforms as well, on Twitter and Instagram. We have the information here on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can also register for the 10-week online history course that I teach, where we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. This is a class that I created the curriculum. I've been teaching this since 2017, on and off. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So the class is discounted to $60. We're going to do about 12 class sessions, including the first session, which was the overview. We have the class lesson plan here for all 10 or 11 class sessions as well. So you can see the type of content that we cover. You can download the class lesson plans here as well. So we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We look at some ancient African civilizations, not just ancient Kemet, but also Kush, Ethiopia. We look at Great Zimbabwe. We look at Hannibal Barca and Carthage. We talk about the African Moors as well. We have a preview of the class here also. So you can register for it. Click right here to register for the class. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded, so you can go back and watch it anytime. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you have full access. You can go back and watch the entire course, okay? Our next classes are Saturday, April 6th, Saturday, April 13th, April 20th, April 27th, 2024. And we do the classes usually 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We may have one last class session after April 27th. We have to see how much we can cover, okay? But as soon as you register, you can start watching the content. And we're going to post the link right here, so you can start watching it right now as soon as you register for the class. The content is PG-13, so you can use this with your children. There are 80 to 100 articles that we reference in the class. There's like 15 books. You don't have to buy any books to follow along in class. And we talk about this here in the lesson plan. Okay, we can't start studying our history in slavery. Even when we study the transatlantic slave trade, which is important, we can't start in 1619 or the 1440s. When the Portuguese get involved, we have to deal with hundreds of years, deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, also deal with some of the history of the Khoisan who go all around the world. There are 200 slides, over 200 slides that I put together in our PowerPoint presentation that we'll look at. There are 80 to 100 articles that we'll reference. So I picked out the articles. There are 15 books that we reference. So we show you excerpts of the book on the screen. You don't have to buy any of the books if you don't want to. They're good for your library if you want to. Also, we'll look at excerpts of interviews that I've done with some of our scholars, like Professor James Small, Professor Kabahai Kamene, Anthony Browder, Tony Browder, who wrote Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization and Egypt on the Potomac. We use those two books. Those are two of the books we use in the class. Also, we'll look at excerpts of interviews that I've done with Runoko Rashidi and some other scholars also. Okay, so we do the sessions live. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. All right. That's Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. If you want to support the African History Network, another way you can do so through, now this is the show I did deconstructing Candace Owens, the lies she was telling on the Breakfast Club. This is part 1 of the fact check. This was 2.5 hours. And we got into some deep history. I provided sources dispelling a lot of the nonsense she was talking about. Part 2, we're going to do that on Sunday, April 7th. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the African History Network show, because we're going to get into the lies that she was talking, saying that Donald Trump would be better for America. Donald Trump is better for black people, things like this. We can go through and point by point dispel all that nonsense she was talking about. Listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube. We're listen to the podcast also. It's a podcast from search for the African History Network show, or click right here, the link. We have our Cash App and PayPal information here. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay some of the bills, finance the research, finance the broadcast, etc. Pay for these services that I have to use to do these broadcasts and run the African History Network. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to the, say, Michael, these other ones here, and it's like 5 fake African History Network Cash App accounts I've identified that they're stealing money from us. You can click here on our link. It shows our QR code. So this is our Cash App account, and we have the link.